Let me introduce Rui Carvalho. Rui Carvalho has 6 years experience as data engineer. His journey began in business intelligence, and early on, he specialized in creating reports and tabular models using Power BI, and then transitioned to focus on ETL process. Today, you are learning with him how to build data pipelines from the scratch using Fabrica Data Factory, and you will learn how to design, build, and deploy your first ETL pipeline. So enjoy your session with Rui Carvalho, building your data pipeline with Fabric Data Factory.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my session. Thank you very much to be here in Actual Virtual Global 2023. So today, my session will be about Microsoft Fabric, specifically about one of those artifacts that you may hear about during the other sessions about Fabric. And today I will talk about specifically about Data Factory artifacts. What can you do in Data Factory artifact? You can build like data flows Gen 2. I will talk about pipelines. And basically, you will learn how to build your first data pipeline using this tool that is Data Factory. My name is Rui Carvalho. I'm a data engineering working in a company based in Portugal called DevScope. We are Microsoft partners. I really like to share content with others. I really like to learn with the community. So I created a Medium profile basically 1 year ago where I share content every week about technology, about new tools that you can use to perform your work, your daily basis work. And I will go always on the deep dive demos that you can put into practice and may help you in your day-to-day job. I also share content on YouTube, in DevScope YouTube channel that you can also search for. I also do some step-by-step guides, how to use certain tools, certain technologies, and stuff like that. Really like to share my content, my knowledge with others, and I really like to learn with others too. That's why I'm here today. So the reason for creating this session is I remember attending a Fabric user group meeting, previously known as a Power BI user group, where I was among the early adopters, exploring the potentials of Fabric. And so during one of those discussions, the presenter, the speaker that was with us, inquired the audience, who here has used or uses currently Power BI? To which everyone responded yes by raising their hands. And of course, we are in a Power BI user group. So the follow-up question was, how many of you have experience with Azure Data Factory, pipelines, Databricks, notebooks, Synapse? And this time, only a handful of people, including myself, raised our hands. And it is evident that Power BI users are gradually encountering new tools and resources in their workspaces since the launch of Fabric or the pre-launch of Fabric. And those tools are present currently in their workspaces. And probably it can be a little confused for them because they are not very used to it. They are only users that used to work with Power BI ecosystems and are not very familiar with other artifacts that came from Azure, came from Data Factory, Synapse, and Data Explorer, and so on. So while these features might be familiar to those versed in this Azure data stack, including myself, like I really like the engineering side of data. I really like to work, to transform, to understand the data and to wrap that up and give to someone that can make a very good use of that data. So my goal here is to show you how you can use these new tools in your Power BI environment and how to use these tools to improve your data preparation, your data ETL, your transformations, your extractions, and so on. So this is a recorded session, so feel free to ask questions during the session in the Teams chat. I will be here in the chat answering them through the presentation. So do as many questions that you want. I will try to reply as many as possible. So this is the topics for today. First one, we will start. So we had some sessions already about Fabric, but I still want to introduce very quickly what Microsoft Fabric is. Introductory section will define what Microsoft Fabric is, and moving forward, we are going deep dive in Data Factory in Fabric, where we will focus on the role of Data Factory within the Fabric ecosystem. After that, we'll go specifically to two of the artifacts that you can create in Data Factory. We will introduce Data Flows Gen 2, a newer generation of data flows in Fabric, the new data flows after the Power BI data flows. And we will do some comparative analysis between this Gen 2 data flow with the legacy one. And after that, we will talk about pipelines in Fabric Data Factory. In this part of the session, we will explore the concept of pipelines in the Fabric Data Factory and how they can be used to automate your workflows. In the end, to wrap up everything, we will offer some demonstrations illustrating the practical application of the concepts that we will discuss here today. So first things first, what is Microsoft Fabric? Fabric is basically the new SaaS solutions that packages the entire range of data analytics, integrating various products under a new umbrella. So everything is based on OneLake in Delta Parquet format. OneLake works as a single, unified, logical data lake for the whole organization. So OneLake comes automatically with every Microsoft Fabric tenant and is designed to be the single place for all your analytical data. Basically, in this way, the information is accessible for the entire organization, the entire tenant, and the goal is to centralize data, standardize information, avoid replication, remove data silos on your organization from across different teams. And this way, we have various ways to consult the same information so different teams can work on the same data, avoiding all the replication that probably some of you are very used to it. This is the menu of Microsoft Fabric. If you enter in app.fabric.com, you will find this new window. If you have access to a Fabric trial, you have the vision of all the artifacts that you have here today. You now have access of all the artifacts from Synapse in Fabric, all the artifacts from Data Factory, and of course, the Power BI is still under the same umbrella over those the other artifacts. So specifically today, we are going to talk about the Data Factory in Microsoft Fabric. So basically, Data Factory allows the integration of data from various sources. It enables the application of necessary modeling and assures that the data are stored in our structures, so be it in a lakehouse or a warehouse or any other external storage. What was done in this area was to combine what we already had in the Azure Data Factory and the Power BI data flows and integrate everything into Fabric. The data pipelines are quite like what we already had. The main difference here lie in the data flow Gen 2, which is the evolution of the data flows used in Power BI. And here we have some new things that we can explore. About data flows Gen 2, Basically, a data flow in Fabric is one of the ways that you can create ETL process. Okay, it extracts data from various sources. For those who are already comfortable with data flows in Power BI, the sources will be the same or even more, perhaps. These work as leverage for the Gen 2 data flows, and it uses the Power Query engine to apply any necessary transformations, where we can also use visual query, or you can use M language to build our transformation steps. That transform data, and this is a cool thing, the transform data is loaded into a destinations, and this is one of the differentiator for the Gen 1 data flows. Since in the data flows Gen 1, you could only build your step-by-step transformation, your data flow, but you can actually store it in a data storage, a repository. And then here you have at least these four possibilities. You can transform all your data and store it in a Azure SQL database, external source, lakehouse, warehouse, that are two artifacts from Microsoft Fabric, and also Data Explorer, another external source in Azure. At this moment, we have these destinations available, but the idea is to have more in the future. But comparing data flows Gen 1 with Gen 2, if we take a look, this table is from Microsoft documentation. I just want to enlighten some of the main differentiations from between these two data flows. Like data flow Gen 1 works in terms of licensing, works with Power BI Pro and Premium license. It doesn't support outputs, so you cannot choose where to load your data, and it lacks the save as draft feature, which automatically save changes in a data flow. If we look at data flow Gen 2, it operates exclusively in a Fabric capacity, as it requires support for modern workloads, such as a lakehouse and a warehouse. It supports outputs, allowing you to load your data into a destination of your choice, supports integration with data pipelines, enabling the grouping of activities that together perform a task that we'll see later on this presentation. The engine has improved to better the performance of both query transformations, talking about data retrieval and also data output. It introduces the save as draft feature, which automatically save changes in a data flow, so we can come back to our work whenever we want. Now you can basically develop anything at your pace, and you can publish that to your workspace after you finish your developments. That's very cool. And it introduces also a new way to monitor the data flow updates and refreshes the update history experience. So currently, there are two methods that you can use to migrate Gen 1 data flows to Gen 2. The first one is to use the model export feature. So in the up corner of your data flow window, you have an option called export template. It will export your Power Query file that you can import from in another data flow creation. You can import from a Power Query template, and you can use this file, import this file, and you will get the same data flow that you have in Gen 1 in your Gen 2. You can also copy and paste the existing queries on your data flow Gen 1. You just need to go to your query tab in Gen 1, right click, click copy, and you just need to go to data flow Gen 2 in your query tab and paste it, and you will get the same result. Choose wherever you want. It's very quick and easy. Now we are going to talk about pipelines. So in essence, a pipeline is a sequence of activities that will take us from point A to a point B with a specific goal in mind. These activities can include Tasks such as running a notebook, sending an email, iterating over a list of tables to copy those tables from an external source and store them in a lakehouse or a warehouse. We can execute stored procedures. We can run the data flows that we previously created. We can do a lot of things here. And while the data flow is a layer where we have the extraction, we have the transformation and the loading of the information to a source, pipelines serve as orchestrators that define the flow of the execution. Therefore, the transformation layer that we saw in the data flows can be executed in a pipeline. So these two can dance together. This is one of the artifacts from that we have in Fabric. As we have seen, we have also some connections, not as many that we have in Dataflow, but we have the same connections, I believe, that are in Azure Data Factory. I believe that these are the same. Okay, so we also have the same way to connect to a source. We can drag and drop our activities to our pipeline and build as we like. We can also schedule our pipeline to run at a specific time or after a specific trigger. Now, what I want to show you is this in practical. I will show you an example of data flows Gen 2, and then I will build an example 2 for data pipelines. Let's go now for the demo. So here we are for our first demo. I am currently in a workspace with Fabric capacity. So in a Fabric workspace, you can actually create Fabric artifacts, mainly related with those various areas of data platform that we showed in the beginning of the presentation. If you come here at this icon in the corner, you will have a selection of all the artifacts that you can create, and it will be around Synapse, data engineering, data science, warehouse, real-time analytics, also Power BI, and Data Factory, that is the one that we want for these demonstrations. You may see some artifacts already created in my workspace that I will explain to you. For this demonstration, I will need a storage, and I will use a lakehouse as my storage. Basically, lakehouse, you can store files, you can store your tables, and everything will be stored in the same format that these Parquet files. As long with every storage here in Microsoft Fabric, everything is stored in Parquet format. So when I create this lakehouse, you may see some other artifacts here. Lakehouse, when created, it also creates a SQL endpoint where we can access, we can explore our files through SQL queries, and it creates also a data set where we can basically build our model from all the data that we have stored in the lakehouse. But I'm not going to dive into specifically in the lakehouse. I will talk more about data factory artifact, and we will only use lakehouse for storage purposes. So I want to start with creating a data flow. And the goal of our data flow is I have some product tables in an Azure SQL database, and I want to connect to that source, and I want to extract the data from those tables. I want to transform my data. Actually, I want to merge that product data, and I want to store that data in my lakehouse, and probably make a Power BI report, a simple Power BI report from that information. So first thing that we can do is switch our artifacts. Currently, we are pointing to data engineering. We are going to switch to data factory. Here in data factory, we have the option to create two types of items, data flows Gen 2 and data pipelines. So I want to create a new data flow Gen 2. I will actually change the name of this item. I will call DF for data flow Gen 2. Azure SQL to Lakehouse. Seems good to me. Okay. So probably if you already have used data flows from Power BI, you are very used to this interface. This is also an interface very commonly seen if you are working with Power BI desktop. In your transformation layer, you have all the options that you can apply in your when transformation your data, mainly when you are using the Power Query interface. So you can access new data. You have all the options to transform your data, add new columns, add new functions, convert data types. So everything that you can do with Power Query, you can do here. Okay. So what we will start to do is I'm going to get data from a new source. As here, if you click here, view more, you will have a lot of data sources that you can connect and get information. So here, I'm going to connect to an Azure SQL database that we have here. So for that, I will need to provide the server name and a database name. So this is my server. I will give it the AdventureWorks database. And now I will create a new connection for this database. I will hit next. Let's see if I can connect to it. Great. So I have a lot of tables here. This database is huge. I will want to extract three specific tables on products. So I will search here for products. And I will want these three product tables that will be production, product category, and I want the subcategory. So I will select these three tables to extract from my SQL database, Azure. I will hit create, and quickly I will have my data in my data flow. So as you can see, at this corner, we have all our queries. Same thing as your Power Query desktop or data flows Gen 1. Under here, we have display of the data. We have also access to the code of the step, same thing as Power BI desktop. At this corner, we have every step applied to this query. Okay, so I believe many of you will work with Power BI or data flows Gen 1 are already very familiar with this interface. So what we're going to start to do is, the goal here is to unify this information. We want to merge this information. Basically, what we want is a product table with a subcategory and the category from that point. So here in my product table, I will look for an ID that I can use to create a relation in my merge with one of those category or subcategory tables. So if I came here and I will see my product subcategory. So what I will do is I will click in these three dots and I will select merge queries as a new, and I will merge my left table product with my right table, which gonna be the subcategory. I will use for this left join my product subcategory ID. I will use this as the keys, and I will create a new merged table with this operation. So as you can see, very quickly, we have our merge table. Now, what I want to do is this product subcategory may have the product category that I want. So this is the result of my merge. I will click in this icon to get the columns from my product subcategory table. So these are the columns. I will need the product category ID to use to do another merge with the product category, and I will want the name so I can have the subcategory in my dim product. So every step that I'm going to apply here in this query or in any other query will be shown here as a data flow. So we have our columns. I will change the name. So this will be the subcategory. And this will be the product category ID. So now what we want to do is we want to click in this merge and we want to add a new step. We are going to merge. And we are going to merge with product category with subcategory ID. Sorry, with product category ID. Okay, let's go. Another step will be added to my data flow. And now these are becoming my final table that I want. So I will do the same step here. In the end, I will expand the columns that I have. Now I just want to get the name of the product category table, and I will rename it to category. So we can do some other steps here. We can clean our table, and I can do that very quickly. I will just keep for my final table the product ID, the name, product number, and probably color, and I will want and the subcategory and category table. Everything else is going to be removed. I will select this step, remove other columns, and I will just stay with the columns that I really want. I will change these names. So this is going to be my dimension, my product dimension. I will call it the product. And everything else that I have here, I don't want to bring that to any source. I don't want to expend resources loading those tables. I just want to have in this data flow, as a result of this data flow, I just want to have this dim product table. So what I'm going to do is right click in my three initial queries, and I will disable staging for it. So the final step here in data flows is, okay, I want to store this in a storage, and we have a lakehouse ready. So what we're going to do is we clicking on our dim product query, and we have this icon called add destination. We click here, we have the 4 options that we see before, and we are going to choose lakehouse as our destination. We are going to create a new lakehouse connection. Here, you will see every workspace that you have in a tenant, your company tenant. And basically, you can save your information across every workspace which you have access to it, because we are talking, as I saw in the beginning, we are talking about a one lake that and where that information is shared across the whole company, the whole tenant that where you are working with. So we are searching here for our workspaces where I have my lakehouse, and we have here Excel Virtual Global. And here I have my lakehouse that I'm going to use. The table name will be the product, no problem. I will hit next. And here I have some destination settings that I can use. I can choose to replace the table in destination, or I can choose to append the information. So in this case, we are talking about a dimension. I will just replace this table on the destination. We can also have some column mapping to do if you want. Not usually this is done automatically, but you can choose here your mappings, your source types, etc. I'm going to save these settings, and now, as you see, we have a connection made to the destination. So now what you're going to do is to publish this data flow. And while you publish this the first time, the data flow is already running. As you can see, is already running and is extracting the information from the SQL database and loading the transformation and load it to our lakehouse. We are going to just wait a few minutes and it's ready to go. So as we see, our data flow is already finished. It's refreshed. So we can click on these three dots here. We can check the refresh history, and we will see right here that we had our data flow succeeded. We can click here on the datetime, and we see some other details on which tables it performed the ETL transformations. So some information that we have here related to the data flow: start time, date time, end time, durations, IDs, all the tables that we succeed to load, and all the activities that we have done too. So we are going to check our destination, our lakehouse, and probably we will find here. It's still undefined. We'll need to refresh, and here we go. So we have our the product table. We can load a preview here in our lakehouse where I can see the information that I want about product. We can also build a quick Power BI model. If we change for our SQL endpoint, we will have access to our model model view. We have only one dimension, but I can create a new report over it and quickly use this data for any analysis that I want. So I can push my product name, category, subcategory, and see a sum of my products. Okay, so this is it for data flows. For the final demo of my session, I will show you how you can create a data pipeline here in Data Factory in Fabric. So the same way we can come here to the Data Factory logo artifact, and we'll have the option to create a data pipeline item. So remember, we have created a data flow Gen2, which is where we extract the data, transform it, and load it to a file. Data pipeline works as an orchestrator. So we have several activities running, and we can parameterize what the pipeline is going to do to our data, where maybe I want to move data from a place to another. I want to run some scripts from some notebooks, some stored procedures, and almost anything you can do in a data pipeline in this orchestration plan. So I will create this pipeline. I will call it PL pipeline. And what I'm going to do in this pipeline is I'm going to use a scenario that is very common in organizations. That is, I want to call an API and get and store a file from it. So I'm connecting to a open weather API that is going to give me the current weather data for a specific location. I will give latitude, longitude, and I will receive all the information about the weather from that specific place at that specific moment. So then I will save it as a file in the lakehouse that I have already created. This time I will save it as a file, not as a table. So my pipeline will be called get API weather. I will create it. And then I have several types of activities that I can create. I'm just going to show you some. The most known one is the copy data activities, where I establish a source and I move the content of that source to a specific destination. We can also call data flows here and run it on my pipeline. I can call notebooks. I can look up to specific object tables, files. I can run scripts. I can call stored procedures. I can use variables to use on my workloads. I can create conditions over my data. I can call APIs. I can summon another pipeline that I have already created. I can send emails. I can send Teams messages. So I can do a lot of type of activities here, and we have a lot more here that you can also explore. Um, what I'm going to do now is create a copy activity, and I will create a connection to call this specific API. So first thing, I'm going to click on copy activity data, and I'm going to add it to my canvas. This copy activity will be just called API. Okay. Well, so the first thing that we have to define is our source, and it will be an external source. We can point this copy activity to some storage in my workspace. It could be a warehouse, a KQL database, or a lakehouse, but I'm going to call an API. So I will select the external source, and I will create a new connection. For the ones that are used to Azure Data Factory, this new connection is a linked service. It's always the same thing, but in Fabric, we call everything connections, okay? But in reality, is the same thing. So we are going to select one of our types of connections. We have many types of connections, Azure, Google, Snowflake, Spark, SQL databases, Amazon, etc. We are going to call a REST. We are going to use a REST protocol to call this API. And here in my in this website, Open Weather Map, I have all the information about my API. This will be the API call URL, and what I need to get in this URL will be my only the domain. Why? Because I want to give the latitude, longitude, and API key as parameters. So I will just I'm just going to give here only the domain of this API, and then I will build my URL to get my parameters passed accordingly. So I will copy this first part of my URL, openweathermap.org. Okay, and I will automatically a new name of connection will be created here, and I will hit OK. I will choose the connection type as REST. I believe I can test connection right now. Yeah, so I need to give some parameters here. As you can see, I have to build this URL, and give as parameter a latitude value and a longitude value, also an API key. So this way, I will define three parameters that I will use in my data pipeline. This is one of the things that you can do too in data pipelines. So if we click outside our copy activity, we will have a tab called parameters, and we will create three parameters. One of them will be latitude, longitude, and API key. Okay, so I really like Porto, so I will get the latitude and longitude of Porto. I will copy these values to my parameters. So latitude will be this one, and longitude will be this one. And you can create accounts on this open weather sites and have your API key yourself. I have mine, so I will copy my API key and paste it in here as a parameter. Of course, this is not a very good practice to place the API key in plain text here, but for demonstration purposes, it's what we have today. So we have the parameters. Now we need to build that API call so we can get to the information. We will click again on our copy data activity. I will go to source and I will create a relative URL. Here, I can add some dynamic content. And this is one of, I will not call it a language, but it's like an expression builder that comes from Azure Data Factory, where you can basically build some kind of strings. You can concatenate parameters to your strings. You can do some interesting things. You have several variables that you can use, variables from your pipeline. You can use some functions, data conversions, logical functions, etc. You have a lot of things to explore here, but today what we are going to do is just concatenate our call, our domain, to our URL, so we can build our API call. So I'm going to concatenate this piece of information from my URL. I will go and get my pipeline parameters called latitude, and I will call my pipeline parameters called longitude to pass it as a parameters. Also, I will call my API ID or app ID, pipeline parameters API key. If I hit OK, it will build my relative URL. If I preview data, I will see, and I provide my parameters. The default, these are the default parameters, but I can provide any others along my data pipeline. I will hit OK, and hopefully I will have the data that came from my API call. This is a JSON type format. So here I have all the information of the temperature, wind, clouds, etc. All the weather information on that specific location that I want to see. As you can see, I have the name of the location and any information that you need for the web. So we can get to the information. Now we need to store it, and we need to define the destination. And I will want to define destination to my lakehouse that we already have created in our workspace, and I will use it the same. So workspace data store type lakehouse, and I will connect to our previously lakehouse. I will store, this is not a table, okay, this is a file. So I will store it as in the root folder files, uh, and I will call it weather.json. I will specify the file format here. I can also do it in this option file format. I will define it as a JSON. I can also define a file folder format. I really like, but when treating lakehouses, I really like the medallion architecture using this is going to specifically to the bronze layer. So the raw data that needs to be treated is going to be stored in a bronze layer folder. So I will create dynamically to a folder using the same expression builder that we saw before. And this time I will concatenate. This path will be on a bronze call folder, and I will create three more folders, respectively, to year, month, and day, creating this way a partition for my files. And this is a very good practice that you can apply to our Lakehouse projects, okay? So this is the expression that we are going to use for the to get the data to have the year, month, and day. We are going to use this expression format date time. UTC now is getting the current date. It's like a get date, and we are going to convert it to year, month, and day. So we have our file path, and I believe we are ready to run this pipeline. One thing that you can do before running, you can validate your pipeline. So any errors that you probably have made are going to be shown here. But as you can see, this pipeline has been validated. No errors was found. I can close it and run my pipeline. I will save it, and we will have some results shortly. So I want to run this pipeline with these parameters. As you see here, this pipeline is running. I can check my running history, and my pipeline just succeeded. If I go to my lakehouse, and you can navigate through any of your artifacts here in this left tab. In our lakehouse, you will find your browse folder 2023 9 September 19, and inside here you have a weather.json file that you can open and preview, and you will see your JSON file. So this is the step of the data pipeline on Data Factory. The next step will be pick this information, probably using a notebook, running a PySpark notebook, and transform this data and save it as a table. But that is another step ahead. So this is it. Thank you very much for everyone that was here today at my session. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for all your questions that we had. I hope I was able to reply to everyone accordingly. So if you have the feel that you want to leave some feedback, that feedback will help me a lot. So the name of my session is Build Your Data Pipeline with Fabric Data Factory. You can screen that QR code and you can leave the feedback that you want, positive or negative, to my session. I really appreciate any kind of feedback because that is what makes us better. So if you want to follow up my work, you can find me on Medium, where I publish articles on technology, Microsoft technology, SQL Server, Microsoft Fabric, Azure, every week. You can also follow me on Twitter, Mr. Data Rui. I also publish on LinkedIn. I have some other kind of posts, more visual posts on technology too, Rui Carvalho SKL. And if any question may goes on your mind after the session and you want to have contact with me, feel free to send me an email, take a screenshot, and feel free to do that. Thanks everyone again, and I hope you have a rest of amazing event. Bye bye.
We have an amazing information through Rui.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
everyone.
Hi, Rui. Thanks so much for your presentation. We have some questions for you. Can I share? The first question for you is from Tao. And the question was, what is Copilot's role in the Fabric environment? Can it interact among different products within Fabric?
So, Fabric Copilot in Fabric will basically boost the productivity in any kind of tasks that you perhaps may write some code, generate something from a portion of data like Power BI reports. We've seen a few demos already across some sessions, some Microsoft sessions. Basically, and currently Copilot will start to appear mainly on Power BI, on DAX measures builder, Power BI report builders, and also on a more data science side on writing notebooks. I expect that in this case for our Fabric Data Factory, we will see Copilot being applied to perhaps maybe in the last demo that I've shown in Express Builder, it's not a very familiar language that everyone is used to, but I expect to see Copilot applied in any part of Fabric that involves writing code in some way, or in some way that you can use the information that you already have to deliver and expose that information to your users in a very fast way. So I believe Copilot will be in preview in a few weeks, I believe. I saw some announcements, so stay tuned for that.
Thank you so much. I have one, I think it's combined in two different parts. The first part is are there any additional steps I need to take if I have my database locally or in a VM? And also, I think you answer the person asked again, I'd like to follow up on the premises gateway question. I usually have one problem when connect to a SQL database on Power BI service. It's worked fine on Power BI desktop, but it keeps showing errors when I schedule a refresh on Power BI service. I have ensured all privacy settings match, but do you happen to know the reasons for this?
So for the first part of the question, it's the only thing that you need to do if you want to connect to a database on premise. You need to install a gateway on your machine, either it is in your local PC or in a virtual machine. After that, you in the data flows Gen 2 or even in the data pipelines view, you can connect via using connect to SQL Server, and you just need to give all the credentials for your localhost for a localhost server and provide your gateway data, and you will be able to connect to your source with no problems. About the errors, yeah, usually when we are developing on our desktop using an on-premise data source, everything is fine, and once we publish, that's where the problems start to appear. Mainly it's due to some problems in the gateway connection, problems while we are trying to reach the data from our local server. probably access, probably some problems in the connection between. I will need some detail on those errors, and I answered the user. So you can send me an email with if you want to share more details on those errors, but probably is some access problem or some problem between the connection on from cloud to your local server.
May I ask you something about, you mentioned about the gateway. Can it be on-premises personal mode or must be the on-premises no personal mode?
Yeah, not sure, but I believe both were fine.
Okay, thanks so much, Rui. Thanks so much for joining us. And everyone, please share your feedbacks in bit.ly-avg 2023 feedback. Put your comments and also your questions that Rui will be pleasure to answer you later. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a lovely day.
Thanks a lot.